Hey there guys, so last time in the recap, we saw that Takuto died in the hospital and woke up in a completely different world. There he was greeted by a character from his favorite game called Eternal Nights. Her name was A2. And she explained to Takuto that this world is indeed the same as the one from the game, and she's here to help him rise to power as the King of Ruin just like he was in the game. Both Takuto and A2 were set on building their evil kingdom. But they had to keep it hidden from the outside world. But their plans got ruined when a group of dark elves found them. But the leader of the group instantly sensed death from Takuto, so he instantly falls on knees and apologized for trespassing. He explained they were only searching for food because their people had been driven from their homeland. Takuto felt bad and decided to help, but when Gia returned and explained it to Elder refused to believe that someone so evil would do charity, so he insisted on meeting this king, believing that if Gia's words were true, then this terrifying being could be the King of Ruin who would bring destruction only to rebuild the world from scratch. That's why Elder Molter was being cautious, because no evil being would give food without expecting something in return. However, he also understood that without the power of a king their people wouldn't survive much longer. They were already on the brink of starvation, and constantly on the move in search of a place to settle down. Takuto overheard their conversation, so he told this to A2 that the Dark Elves were returning. And she simply wishes they take the food they couldn't carry back and leave. Takuto too thought it would be for the best, but since he's terrible at communication, A2 stepped up to handle the negotiation. As always, she was more than happy to help. So when Elder Molter and Gia arrived, the elder began by offering his gratitude, then he wanted to know the name of their savior, and after getting Takuto's permission, A2 revealed their names. Introducing Takuto as the King of Ruin and herself as A2, still, she also made it clear that it is time for them to leave, and Molter expressed his desire to repay their kindness, but they had nothing of value to offer, not even food. So Takuto thought of something else, and his idea actually made A2 angry. Instead of following his suggestion, she imagined their heads hanged on stakes is better, but Takuto knew Dark Elves wanted to repay the favor. Plus it would clear the doubts that they gave it for free. A2 understood and told them that Takuto wanted something from them. This immediately relieved their anxiety, and then A2 explained that Takuto wished to learn about the world outside. Elder Molter happily agreed to share all his knowledge. But once that was done, A2 told them to leave the forest. If they refuse, only death would await them. Molter didn't argue and accepted, but Takuto realized that if they don't die here they might somewhere else. So he stopped Molter and instead asked them to become his citizens. He had a refugee system which allows him to take them in, and since the Dark Elves were considered neutral race, making them his citizens will help. A2 still had her concerns, but Takuto reminded her that their usual citizens were homunculi, who weren't exactly good for health to look at. That's a convincing point, so A2 agreed. Molter then asked what would happen if they agree, and A2 said that they would never have to worry about anything for the rest of their lives. Which was honestly a strange way to put it. After accepting the offer, Takuto made his way to the elf settlement to make things official. Upon his arrival, all the Dark Elves knelt before him, and one guy even fainted from the overwhelming aura Takuto gave off. A2 then announced that from this point on they are citizens under King Takuto. All the conditions had been met, and with that, Takuto confirmed it by pressing OK. However, Gia felt nothing at first. But then suddenly he was consumed by an intense hatred. This is what A2 had mentioned earlier, that becoming Takuto's citizen meant becoming evil, and the first sign of evil was hate. Takuto then asked Gia if he was alright, and that simple concern from him touched everyone's hearts. This marked the official founding of the Kingdom of Manogra. Then afterward, Takuto bought a map from Elder Molter. But once he saw it, he started to throw tantrum like a kid, because the place they were in is the worst starting location, as there are two massive kingdoms nearby. One worships the holy god Arlos and the other worships nature. And if either of them discovers their evil kingdom rising, they would surely form an alliance and launch an attack. That was a dangerous situation, especially considering that their usual homunculi citizens weren't very bright, though now that they had the Dark Elves, so they might be able to make up for that weakness. There A2 heard that Dark Elves were coming, and this time they brought Emil. She was sharp and knew a lot about legends in different nations, so her knowledge would be a great asset. A2 already had future plans in mind. So first she appointed Elder Molter as the head of state affairs for Manogra. Since he could use magic and had wisdom for 2 centuries, he'd manage everything efficiently. Then Gia was given the role of head warrior, and he was happy and ready to kill anyone. which made Takuto a bit uncomfortable as he preferred peace. That attitude made Elder Molter happy because he will be more useful than Gia. There2 noticed that the Dark Elves were really hard-working, so Takuto decided to let them improve the area first. Specifically, he asked them to build houses while cutting down as few trees as possible. Molter said that elves loves nature, so it's easy for them, but Takuto also told them to do reforestation as well. That was completely new to them, and both he and Itu realized that this world's magic technology is underdeveloped. But that also works to their advantage because it will give them an upper hand over other nations. Then Itu explained that reforestation meant planting new trees where they harvested lumber, but since trees take a long time to grow, Takuto wanted them to use magic to accelerate that process with magic. Itu made it sound like Takuto had invented this idea and gifted it to them. Emil even believed that the apples they ate earlier were Takuto's creation. Itu was boldly telling white lies, and Emil had already planted seeds to grow more apples. So this reminded Takuto that the fruits were actually from another world produced with his emergency production skill. So that means he could also produce other things too, although the more complex an item the more mana it would consume, but even so, it meant Takuto can create guns and artillery and could eventually become unstoppable in this world. But far away in the human kingdom, someone from church sensed that something is happening deep within the Dark Continent, and that would soon change their world forever. And right there our episode 2 ends for today, so stay tuned to watch the next episode, and for that subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Till then, take care.